to ROK-U 2015 Spring League Playoffs. I'm Louis Atzman, and I am joined by...
I am Madeline Stevenson.
So this year we have the Pohang Overs against the Ulsan Massive. Can we have a little bit of a prequel? What will happen in this game, Maddie? What do you expect to see?
I'm hoping for a really close game. These are two teams that play very different styles of Frisbee. Over's jam is the zone defense. You know, they've been playing it all season, every game, all the time. They don't quite match up person for person with a lot of teams, but they make up for that with a really, really tight zone defense.
I can actually elaborate on that zone. So how it works is you have two people on the outside. They funnel the handlers into the middle. So one person on the outside will be on disc, they'll be counting stalls, they'll be making sure no breaks. The other will guard the swing. Can't get it to the other handler. So the goal is to force things middle into Oliver Votler.
It's been quite effective. Teams get frustrated against this zone, and then they work the disc up, and there's a certain point where you're like, I just want to score this, and they will often hug it. Aaron is a phenomenal athlete. He's got a great read on the disc. He takes down a lot of those deep shots.
So on that note, the team playing against them is Ulsan Massive. Who's handling for that team? Who needs to be patient?
Handling for Ulsan Massive is going to be Nick Whale, very well known in the Republic of Korea ultimate scene.
And outside.
And outside, yes. Kevin Schmidt is a tall, really good handler, great throws, really, really, really good knowledge of the game. He's played for a long time. He's a great coach, real patient with the disc, rarely turns it over. They're also using Kim Hee, one of the best female players in Korea. She's really quick. Her strength is definitely cutting and running deep, but on this team she does do a lot of handling, so she's very versatile.
Okay, and what defense do they run against the Overs?
I'm guessing that they're going to come out in a straight man-to-man defense. They're going to match up really well against these Overs.
So as the handlers for Overs, as the disc is hucked, the game has begun. What do Oliver and Patrick want to do against their defense?
Ollie and Pat got to stop those throws right through the middle. So we're seeing a cup, a three, kind of a wall more like. So
that's that four-man cup I was talking about earlier, and it does leave someone open deep just like that.
Yes, it does. So what you saw there was kind of a risky throw. That's a throw that the Overs want to force. Unfortunately, Whale, one of the best players in Korea, is there. He pulls it down. He hucks an easy one to Kim Hee for a honey point.
So that point was excellent. Expect to see a lot of that. Nick Whale looking to break that zone.
Yeah, against a zone, you really have to take those risky throws sometimes, and especially in ROK-U, there's going to be holes. You're going to be able to find them. If anyone's going to be able to find them, it's going to be Nicholas, Paul, Xavier, Whale, a member of the four-name club, super exclusive. I'm also a member of the four-name club, just like Nick Whale, so we have at least that in common.
At least that. At least that. So
a few other things.
The disc is hucked. It is a
disc
great...
pulled out of bounds for a brick, yes.
Oliver will take it from brick point and look for their offense to get started. What are they looking to do against Massive?
Looks like they are setting up in a hoe stack right now, so you'll see the four cutters spread across the field evenly. Usually it's the two middle cutters that are what we call like the hot cutters. They're looking to get open on an undercut and create space. That way there's just 100 options after that. Overs like the long ball, so look for one of the handlers running deep too.
He makes a quick, gets open, throws to Tamu.
Okay, Tamu makes it great.
Moving up the field to Aaron. Now, we've talked a little about guys. We mentioned Hayri. How about the girls on these teams as Patrick O'Malley hucks it deep out of bounds?
Out of bounds.
Who are the girls on Overs that we can expect to see a lot of?
Overs women are, we've got Siobhan. Siobhan has improved a huge amount since she started playing. She's a really good cutter. She's great on defense. We've got Sunhwa, Oliver's wife, actually, in her first season, she actually was just named the league's best female rookie. So she's been a great presence on their team this season. It's really great to see her out on the field. She's been a good support of Pohang Ultimate for the last few years. It's really good to see her. It's really good to see her on the field.
Lots of potential honey points on both teams.
For both teams. Oh, and a tough collision there. Taemu and Sangsu. Neither of them saw each other, maybe? Taking a minute.
I'm not next.
Their head on straight.
Looks like they are okay.
Yeah.
Was that Taemu, and who was involved in that collision?
Taemu and Sangsu. And Sangsu actually has played American football, believe it or not. He's a Korean, born and raised in Korea. I'm not exactly sure where he played it. Somewhere in Korea for in high school or college or something like that. But I have heard that he's experienced in slightly more contactful sports.
Hence the collision, it seems like.
Looks like they're both okay.
Okay, so that is the overs women. On top of Hayree, who else does Massive have as their female stars?
Massive women are great. You know, pretty much, even if you're just starting out in Frisbee, if you're athletic and you can learn throws, you're going to have a leg up on the competition. They've got Ashley Marks. She's actually running deep right now. She's in her first season. She was also nominated for Best Female Rookie. She is awesome. She has a really great, field sense. They also have Jeanri and Katie, two other women, and Julia and Liz. So they've got all their women. Their women are strong top to bottom. They can all run. They can all run with the competition.
Certainly no weaknesses.
All good cutters. Yeah, definitely.
Right now, Massive moving it up the field. Exactly what you were saying before the game. Patience is the name of their game right now. They're in the end zone football. This is called the red zone.
Call it that in Frisbee too.
Hammer across the end zone.
Oh, wow.
Point for Massive.
Cross-field hammer to Ashley Marks. She makes a great catch, and it's 2-0 Massive.
So they're up 2-0 in their semifinal match. The Overs went up big against Freeze, who during the season actually crushed Pohang Overs. Do you think it's possible that they are happy with where they've been so far and may not have the emotional fortitude to win this final game?
Overs? I think Overs are a team with a lot of heart, and they're excited about Frisbee. I am a lurking member of Pohang Ultimate Frisbee Facebook group. Do you know how often they practice?
How often?
They practice at least twice a week. Pohang Frisbee, just everyone in Pohang, they go to the beach. There's always a focus. Ollie always, sets a time, and, Ollie is a professional Frisbee coach and dad, basically. A little bit of a teacher, but, so they're always practicing, and it's been really great. In the several seasons that I've played, I think Pohang teams have been around for about 6 or 7 seasons. Pohang teams at the beginning of the season compared to the end, never the same. And Pohang teams have made finals probably more than any other city.
Pohang moving it up the field against this massive man defense. Patrick launches it deep to Oliver, but it sails out of bounds. You were mentioning they improve a lot throughout the season. You can see that actually as they are an underdog to reach this finals. How did they make it?
I think underdog is their thing. They like being the underdog. They played really well in all of their games leading up to this one. Trying to think. They didn't. Yeah, they were expecting to face Evolution. 2-0. They're expecting to face Evolution, who went in and actually lost their first round game, unfortunately, with an injury to one of their best players. So their road to finals was a bit different than they expected. So they're very good at improvising and taking things as they come, and they just always played their game. They never changed, which I really respect.
I watched their semifinal game against Freeze, and I watched theirs in the regular season as well. Freeze, of course, has Justin Basiglia and Guapo, Greg Smith, two of the best players in Ultimate Frisbee. And in the regular season, Guapo just torched as Massive throws a deep hammer out of bounds. Guapo just torched this zone. They did nothing to contain him. but I watched Oliver and Patrick leaving the field talking in depth about how to beat that zone, and it was clear that their scheming worked today.
Yeah, they made a couple of adjustments, and I'm sure they've talked about it for the last couple weeks, possibly expecting a matchup with them. And Pat's looking deep. You know, I saw that coming big time. This is a Pat to Ollie connection we're going to see quite often. Pat with the deep shot to Ollie. Nice read by Oliver Butler. 2-1. Massive.
The wind is pretty much non-existent now after being a little windy throughout the day. How do you throw in the wind?
Wind is your best friend and your worst enemy. Throwing specifically in the wind, you have to throw. Throwing upwind and downwind is a little different. You'd think that throwing downwind is just like, oh, this is so easy. But in really high wind, you have to change your technique a little bit. I like to throw a little bit more inside out than I normally would. So I'll normally throw like a really straight flick. If you put some more inside out angle on it, then it flattens out a little easier. And then it's all about spin. If a disc is spinning fast, the wind doesn't affect it as much. Yeah, wind has helped my teams win games that we had no business winning, especially in Jeju, and wind has definitely been a factor in losses that I've had.
Oh, Nick Whale gets up for a huge catch.
Oh, and he throws it up line to John Rhee.
That's impressive. Often I find after players have a very big catch a sky as massive scores, they throw it away right after. Good for him not doing that.
Yeah, we like to call that conservation of greatness. Have you heard about that concept?
You can explain it after your mic moment.
Kevin to Michael on the open side. Massive goes up 3-1. Yeah, so conservation of greatness, total mental thing. You make a huge play. For some reason, you're more likely to throw the disc away right after.
Why is that? I know we're not psychology experts here, but as a guess.
Adrenaline, perhaps. You know, let's say, Whale's cutting deep and I run in front of him and D it. That's actually not a hypothetical example. I actually did that in our game against them, which we ended up losing. Oh well. Let's say you get a huge D and you catch your D, and then you're so pumped, you just want to do something big right after it, maybe? Tuck it away. I always am very cognizant of that, and I think in my head, like, conservation of greatness, don't do something stupid right after this.
The score now, 3-1, massive. Has Nick Whale had championship experience in ROK-U?
Nick Whale has had championship experience. He played a year ago in spring 2014. His team at that time he was a Daegu. He was a Daegu breaking rad. Oh, Temu with a nice deep run. Now let's see what Temu does with it. Temu has been known to make some hasty decisions now and then.
He's waiting now for his handlers. Gets it to Aaron, who looks to swing to Oliver. Yeah.
Aaron got rid of that disc real fast. That was great.
Aaron is a new...
And Ollie
Pohang!
That's the reverse of the connection you were mentioning.
Yeah. Ollie to Bro Malley for the quick score. 3-2 massive.
Aaron's a new-ish player, certainly a strong defender. On offense, he has a tendency to rise up, catch the disc, certainly above how far most players can get up, but his throwing can be erratic.
Pretty typical of a newer, very athletic player. He's used to being the deep cutter, being the undercutter, and then throwing the dump pass. And Aaron's throws are are improving quite a lot. I think I wouldn't be surprised if we see him kind of developing into more of a handling player, or at least a cutter with throws.
That's true, and of course by erratic, I mean inconsistent. When he's at his best, he has fantastic throws. So the score is 3-2. This is shaping up to be an excellent game. Patrick, Oliver certainly playing excellent. And as you were mentioning, cutters, excellent athletes can turn into handlers. You see Rhee handling now for massive. Oliver probably would be a better cutter than a handler.
Oliver's natural position is definitely cutter. You'll see a lot of players in ROK-U league at a league of this level who are the best thrower on their team, so they're a handler. On a higher level team, they're going to be a cutter. It's all about how we can best utilize their skills. So Ollie, for example, plays with me on our Sajahu club team. Massive moving the disc real fast. Very nice. Looks nice. And Ollie is primarily a cutter. Oh, and an overthrow by Kevin. Pretty rare overthrow and missed by Whale. Whale jumped up pretty high, but a little early.
That chance was created by a throw by Nick Whale out of the zone. He threw an outside-inside flick just over anybody in the zone, really opened the field. And that's a problem with this Pohang over zone, is if you get it to half and you get it there quickly, you have lots of room to operate. And you've seen Massive take advantage of that on some points.
I would say it's a very high-risk, high-reward type of defense. So they're using their strength in the three-man wall in the cup.
A drop there by the overs. Now Massive has a chance close to the end zone.
Chance to break here by Massive.
Nick Whale
They've
passes to
already had
Kevin
one break.
into the score.
Kevin punches it in.
Go with the disc.
Kevin punches it in to Katie for the score. Massive with a break, up 4-2.
So general ROK-U rules,
13, okay.
the game doesn't go to points. The game actually goes to time.
Right.
But the finals, as a showcase of the best talent in the league, is to points tonight.
Yep. Finals always got to be to points. Way more exciting that way.
Much more exciting frisbee. Do you think this game is getting away, or is it still tight?
It's early. It's real early in the game. I wouldn't be worried. If I were overs, I wouldn't be worried at all. I'd just keep playing our game. They've got two. They know what works, and they just got to keep at it.
Pat's taking a moment to coach the players on the line. They certainly have enough experience to not lose their cool. Hand is raised, and the pull is thrown.
One thing to think about is Massive is up 2 breaks. So it's not just they're up 2 points. They've broken twice, meaning they started on D and then scored. That's a huge advantage.
And so what does that do? When you receive the disc, how deflating is it as there's a drop there by Pohang and another chance for Whale to score?
He's looking past the wall.
What's the mental effect when a break is scored on you?
You know, it depends on the player, really. It depends on the team.
But if he doesn't want to share a bed,
with a big D by Tamu. Tamu really saved that point there. Yeah, it just depends. It depends on the game situation. It depends how early it is in the game. Getting broken first point can be a real momentum shift. It can kind of suck. But,
there's a high jump for the disc there between Tamu and Whale, but it ends up in Pohang's hands as they keep the disc still.
Keeping it alive, yeah.
This drive is a little herky-jerky. Doesn't look like they know where they're going so far. But they have an attack.
Sometimes, a little crazy. That works for them sometimes.
You guys should have a sign that says we're recording commentary, but we're sounding boring.
Pat with the puck down to, and a great read. Oh, fantastic read.
We should have a sign.
Beautiful huck by Pat O'Malley there, all the way down to the guy who just caught it. Super awesome read. 4-3 Massive.
So darkness falling a tiny bit now, but there's lights on. We talked about windy conditions. What are some other conditions that affect how the game is played?
Other conditions, well, surface. Surface is a big factor. And
what
sand,
are we playing
basically,
on now?
is different. We're playing on turf right now. Pretty soft turf. Pretty fun to lay out on. A little bit hard underneath. But pretty ideal if we have to play on turf. Not a lot of turf burn happening from people's layouts, so this is pretty good. You see beach ultimate, you see ultimate on grass, you see ultimate on turf, and it's all a little bit different.
So Kevin with the disc now against this cup takes his time, dishes down to Harry. Whale moving in for the dump.
Ollie playing great mark defense on Katie.
Oliver's a terrific defender. He's longer than you
he's
think he is. I can tell you from experience.
Oh, yeah. He gets those hand blocks.
Yes, he does.
He actually, the other night in one of their practices, he sustained a huge hand block, and his entire hand was just one big bruise.
That's the risk you
take. Glad to see him out here making his throws.
Massive moving the disc up, Whale with the disc now. He fakes a lot of hammers, I tell you. Good thing he throws them, or else you wouldn't have to bite on those fakes. Kevin throws really for the score.
Oh, wow. Yeah, not a lot you can do there. Not a lot you can do against hammers. If you're the mark and your person throws a hammer, you're playing pretty good defense because they're not throwing an easy flick or an easy break throw. Kevin to Michael for Michael's second goal of the game. Massive up 5-3.
I find throughout ROK-U, a lot of the best players do sub. It's certainly more of an enjoyment league than a professional league.
Definitely, yeah.
In these finals so far, Oliver, Patrick, Nick, Kevin, no subs so far. Does that change in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think it does a lot. Obviously, during the regular season, in the weeks leading up to finals, wins and losses don't matter quite as much. So you're not really win at all costs. I think it's best to sub as much as you can, even in high stakes games. But I think all teams are going to support the idea of keeping your best lines on as much as you can. There's certain points that are more important than others. So, ideally on bigger teams, on higher level teams, you have kind of subbing groups, and the captains can kind of call those groups on as they see fit.
A huge pull from Nick just out of bounds. Patrick O'Malley walking it up to breakpoint. You were talking about lines. So how do you choose who goes on an offensive line and a defensive line in higher level Frisbee?
O-lines and D-lines contain pretty different players. Obviously, D-lines are going to have maybe the quicker, more athletic players. And then also when a D-line gets a D, we want them to kind of make quicker decisions, maybe a little more hucking involved. O-line is going to have your throwers, your cerebral players. So more patient with the disc, maybe.
Speaking about patience, Patrick looks deep to Oliver, but the disc is blocked by a random player just running downfield.
Yeah, he had a good look. I don't think he saw that player running right in front of him, so sometimes you get those accidental Ds.
Oliver had Kevin beat deep. Nick started with the disc at half. Ulsan again poised to score. Kevin looking. Against this zone, the end zone has a lot of holes, I find. If you have a good hammer, it's not hard to beat it in the end zone.
Yeah, definitely. Especially if you've got tall receivers like Kevin, where he goes up right
now. Speaking about height, another score from Massive.
Kevin Schmidt getting tall for that catch, throws to Katie for the score, and I believe there was a timeout. There's a timeout called by Overs. 6-3 Massive.
All right, this is a happening field. So a lot of the time, ROK-U is really only the games are attended by other teams, by players, by friends, by random passerbys who are interested. But today, the mayor of Pohang is at the fields. What did that mean for ROK-U?
I think that was big for ROK-U, especially Pohang. A lot of cities in Korea have a really hard time playing Frisbee, finding places where they're allowed to play Frisbee. In Busan, for example, there's a big park, kind of sports complex. We practice that all the time. We often practice on some fields that are kind of dirt, not the best grass, but there's really nice real grass fields that we try to rent, and they the people who rents that say like only soccer teams can play on them. So we did find a little loophole. One of our guys, Young June, reserved it for, and he made the group name Ultimate Soccer Team or something, and then we showed up and we were able to, the entry in charge was very cool. So we were able to use it, which was pretty much a dream come true. It was Jeju quality.
Yeah, a lot of good field space is tough to find in Korea. These facilities are excellent in Pohang, and we have nothing but thanks to the mayor.
All, and that's all thanks to Oliver. You know, Oliver has forged a great relationship with the city government. Pohang hosts a fantastic beach tournament every summer, and it's just a really great place to be a Frisbee player. Love Pohang.
Timeout is over. The game is about to begin again. So Ulsan will be pulling down to the overs to start after the timeout. Score 6-3. And a lot of teams, when they're down, look for the long throw, look to keep it just between their top players. So Patrick O'Malley, Oliver Votler. Do you think that this team will decrease their options and move to that strategy?
It's hard to tell. Coming out of a timeout, I feel like they might have some kind of play up their sleeve. Ollie and Aaron both not on the field, so we'll see what they come up with here. If they go for the long ball or if they decide to keep it short. Pat is the only true handler that I know of who's on right now, so we'll see what he does. Got a great cut in by Nicole, and she just misses it. Nicoline, I believe.
Ulsan picks up the disc. Nick
right
Whale
back into
surveying.
Oh, and Whale with the outside in to number 81. So Nick Whale with the blade to take half. 7-3 massive. Nice blade, Whale. What's that? I think you need more swag right now. More swag, please. More blades, Whale.
Yo, over. You guys may not have read this contract, but you need to offer one player for an interview with Matt.
Ron.
So the score is 7-3 now. You guys had a really impressive road to the finals. What was the top so far you guys?
Ron!
You guys
That beat the contract.
semifinals. In the regular season. What did you plan against? How'd you take it?
Well, I was drunk for most of the game, so it's really soju and beer that really got me going, and my teammates backing me up. Thank you guys for buying me the beer.
You're representing Pohang. Everybody from Pohang. What do you have to say?
You're in my city. So even though we win or lose tonight, you all lose tonight.
Hey, who's gonna win?
Aju Mafia always wins.
Yeah, Aju Mafia is the party, and Pohang should win, but it's, they need to start fighting harder.
Who's gonna win this game?
Pandemic. Fuck yeah.
Every team I've asked, they always say their own team.
We're not original.
You're not even
I
original.
got the overs. People are doubting them. The Massive are doubting them. They're coming back. They're coming back.
I think it's pretty clear right now. I think Massive has the upper hand. I really think they're going to take the gold, and they're definitely going to get a play.
All right, so Massive pulling 2 overs. And Pat O'Malley catches that pole. Good. Way to go to the disc, Oliver.
Second half has begun. A quick score from Patrick O'Malley to Oliver.
Quick score, O'Malley to Votler there. I like that. I really like that.
They look good.
They look good. In Frisbee and in uniform.
You know what else looks good is that backhand, Pat.
Sweet backhand break by O'Malley. Maybe I should put him on my bids team. What do you think?
You mentioned bids. There's a number of tournaments throughout the year that aren't related to ROK-U, although of course many of the same players. What are some of the tournaments that you love to play in, love to watch, and want to talk about?
That is a great question. You know, Korea is getting more and more and more hat tournaments. At some point, it is going to be too many, but right now, you know, I think we're kind of at a tipping point with Frisbee. So Busan Biz on the Beach is a great one. Anything in Pohang is a great one. Pohang hosts 2 fantastic hat tournaments. Frozen Fives, 5-on-5 tournament in February, March, and 6 on the Beach, 6 versus 6 tournament on Bukbu Beach, the great beach for Frisbee in Pohang.
Right there we saw an example of a hammer breaking that zone.
Yes.
Kevin gets the disc. We played the Pohang overs. When we played them, Rad, Kurt, and I, the 2 handlers on our team, really just threw hammers side to side every point. And we actually had a good game. It was a universe point where we lost to them. We lost more universe points this season than any other team. It was 6, which is an outrageous number.
Wow,
but
6 universe point losses? Yeah. Oh my gosh.
Hammer to hammer handler passes really can tear up this zone that they have.
They really can. Oh, and Tamu with the big D. Wow, you know, Tamu's coming up big in the red zone, in the end zone here.
Tamu often can be erratic. Sometimes some liquor consumption has something to do with that, but he is on point so far this game.
And Aaron with a floaty, just a little bit too floaty of a dump pass. And Whale throws it away. So overs get it back.
Looks at his hand, blames it. That's something all athletes do.
Yeah. Just look at the hands.
Nobody will know what that means.
Often, you know, players, if they throw it away or they drop it, they'll look at their hands.
I never do that when I throw. When I drop, though, I'll always stare at my hand. What was that?
It's like, hands, what are you thinking? 7-4.
You thought it was a
Pat with a great throw to Tamu.
Yeah, fantastic throw. Very flat. And Sunhwa running deep. Oh, and she doesn't quite get under it. That's okay. Sunhwa, the rookie of the year, female rookie of the year. So she's running hard on Hetty.
On the play.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Aaron's very aware. It's really fun to watch Aaron as the deep in this defense.
His head is always swiveling, and that's what you have to do as a deep. Aaron's a great deep. Who are some other guys that you don't want to throw deep against in ROK-U?
Yeah, Aaron's definitely one. You know, Whale was doing a lot of poaching deep in our game against them in the quarterfinal. Pretty much any guy who's tall and knows what he's doing in Frisbee, if he's poaching deep or if he's the deep in zone, even if someone looks open, they're really not.
Yeah. Whale and Kevin moving it up towards the red zone. Aaron goes for the D.
But Katie goes to the disc really hard. You know, that's great. She's a real athlete.
That is very strong.
Katie. I believe it's Katie.
Harry now with the disc. They're moving it up slowly but surely towards this Pohang end zone. And it's a score.
Push pass.
Kevin to Mario.
Kevin Schmidt with the classic push pass to Mario for a score. Classic push pass. Classic.
8-4.
8-4. You didn't. No, you didn't.
Holy shit.
So it's just over 40 minutes so far in the game, which generally in ROK-U would be soft cap when we play with time. But there's still a lot of Frisbee left to be played here in this game.
There's a lot of Frisbee, you're right. You know, you got to think about that there's still potentially 5 to 9 more points to be played. It could be anyone's game right now, really.
Which can be a lot of points. When the overs played freeze in the regular season, 6 was the winning total. So you can have low-scoring games, and a lot of these points can be grind them out slow points, especially with a zone.
Yeah. Very rarely did ROK-U games get to be to scores above 10, really.
Double digits is rare.
Yeah, double digits is rare. And that's partly because of good defense, but I think it's more because of a lot of turnovers, more turnovers.
That also has to do with great teams against bad teams generally won't keep their best lines on all game, especially if they're winning 8-1, 8-2.
Kevin with the pull. He's got some nice pulling technique. It's a way down there. Pat with the catch. I always like when handlers catch the pull.
I'm always too scared to catch the pull.
It does take a little bit of mental focus.
Low risk,
for sure.
Or low reward, high risk.
Yeah, high risk, low reward. Actually, I would say, depending on where it lands, pretty high reward.
Pretty
if you can
high
catch
reward,
it and
yeah. Especially if they're not sprinting down the field, which most teams don't do in ROK-U. So, some of these pulls, one especially has gone out the back of the end zone. Who in ROK-U can really pull towards a corner, really has pulling control.
Oh, there goes Whale! There goes Whale! Oh, not the
As a hammer is thrown to Whale for the score.
There we go. Okay.
Another point for
Hammer
Ulsan.
Kevin to Whale. Another score for Ulsan. 9-4. Whale almost dropped that, I think. He was running with his hands over his head. Not ideal, but he managed to snag it out of the air.
But at least he looked good, like an underwear model.
He looked pretty good. Now he's half taken his shirt off. So a year ago, spring 2014, Wales Daegu Rad was playing in the final against Ulsan Narwhals. Yes.
Daegu Rad, that's my team.
Did you ever get to play with Whale?
This is my second season ever in ROK-U.
Okay.
I played with Nemo last season, the commissioner, the MVP,
Good.
and the assist leader of this league.
Nemo is racking up the awards, by the way. I think we should give him a little shout
And I
out right
played
now.
with-
He looks good doing it.
I played with Kurt Metzger this season, who's also one of the top players in ROK-U, but I never did get to play with Whale. He really is a notch above.
Yeah, that season, Narwhals were pretty stacked, and they went up by a lot. Whale decided he was going to start taking one article of clothing off for every point that was scored against them. And by the end of the game, he didn't have a whole lot of clothes on. He was
Not now.
He was very, very funny to watch the whole time. He wasn't too serious. He's a player that is just always having fun.
ROK-U is always having fun. It is a Chingu league, as people say, Chingu's friend.
Chingu League, yeah.
As the dump is thrown away to Patrick O'Malley,
Thrown away and
Ulsan with another chance.
Half of the field. Swinging it around.
Nick to Hayri, not as many of those honey points as we predicted in the beginning of the game. Whale with an outside-inside blade.
That ends in I'm thinking, a 9-4 lead is a little different than a 7-4 lead. I think Massive might be getting pretty comfortable. I could see Overs scoring a couple more at this point.
Yeah, that's a throw Whale probably wouldn't try if it was a close game. Although, being Nick Whale, he probably would try any throw.
He's got throws, that's for sure.
He's got throws.
Great end cut there by Overs.
Nick Whale, you were mentioning earlier, was a former Daegu player. Of course, I'm from Daegu, you're Busan. We are historical enemies. Now in Ulsan, Daegu lost one of its prime talents.
As Aaron throws it away.
Massive with the disc.
Whale is looking real sweaty. These jerseys are not so breathable.
And if you're not sweaty, you probably aren't playing.
Yeah.
And this is an example of when you get ahead of that cup in this zone, you have free reign to score, as they do.
May have been a honey point. Tucker to Jean-Marie.
Unknown honey point.
An unknown honey point.
A gossip honey point.
A gossip honey point. ROK-U is very social. Part of it is gossip. Part of it is, what's going on with people.
A pause right now in play as the Overs meet in the middle of the field to discuss the game, how they're going to come back in it, what they need to do.
Is there a timeout called? Looks like a timeout.
Looks like it.
If you see Ollie right now, Ollie is one of my favorite timeout talkers. He always knows what to say.
And he gesticulates.
He does. He definitely does. You can see exactly what he's saying right now, basically.
Yeah, he's talking about drops right now, you can tell. He's talking about being afraid as a cutter.
Going to the disc hard.
Running through the disc, catching with two hands. As a cutter, you catch the disc, you don't have it often. how can you make sure that you don't panic?
That's a tough one. As a new player, when you get the disc, often you're on the sideline, often you're being marked really intensely. I think just remembering that you have 10 seconds, and 10 seconds is kind of long, right? If you're holding the disc for a little bit longer than you're used to, it's okay. Squaring your hips, that means your hips are facing your handler and locking on your handler, locking eyes. That's one reason why I really prefer my teammates to not wear sunglasses. So eye contact, hip squaring, always just a nice easy backhand.
And no swag paraphernalia.
No swag paraphernalia. Oh no.
That's one thing that, as a handler, I tell my cutters at least 100 times a game, you have 10 seconds, and that is forever.
10 seconds is actually a long time, and a lot of people count a little bit fast. It's hard to get that down to exactly 10 seconds.
Especially when you're panicking, when your heart rate gets up, 10 seconds feels like a minute. Pohang has some of the best.
Pumping it up with a sweet cheer. Look at Pat O'Malley. He is pumped right now.
Some of the best cheers in the league.
He's wearing my 3 favorite colors at the moment: red, yellow, and purple. I love it.
You call that yellow?
I call it neon yellow. Yeah, neon yellow. It's a good choice, bold choice, as I said before.
Pohang cheers I love. They change them. They're always different. They plan them, and they
fun.
always yell.
Yep. They're always pumped about Frisbee. That's for sure.
The pull is up.
The pull is up.
Oh,
great job avoiding that. Yes. It's 10-4.
Pat dishes to Tamu, out to Nick, back to Pat. He looks for the backhand huck.
It's not there.
Decides not to.
Those swings are working out pretty well for him. If you notice, every time overs swing the disc, like now, they've got an open cutter or an open additional swing.
Patience always seems to work out for
This
them.
is to the massive, is it not? Or 10 forward to the massive?
Yeah.
Okay.
Especially right now, they're moving it up at half. They've had some easy drops, though, on past drives when they were moving it up the field.
A little bit of crowding going on behind the disc there. That's a tendency of ROK-U teams. Looks like there's a stoppage in play. Maybe a stall?
Call on the play. If it's stall, that sounded short.
It seemed a little short.
Maybe a travel. Nick Whale from the sideline. Oh no, he's playing.
There's always the option to contest a stall if you think that it's too fast, but you can't do it after you throw it. So if it's getting up to 10 and you throw it away, too late to contest.
Nick with a
very
great
nice
catch.
by Nick. Yes. And a good
Fingertips.
dump. Smart. And another awesome catch by Somehow. You know, I love, an unlucky drop. I love that both teams use all their players. All the players on the field, we've seen them all touch the disc, and many of them score.
That's one thing I've said to Patrick before. I'm very impressed with how they use everybody, and it makes them much better as a team.
It's great, yeah.
A sloppy throw from Kevin, but still caught. Back to Kevin. With Nick out, he's the only handler, the only true handler for Ulsan on the field right now. He gets the disc back.
And Nick is one of those players who's really not a true handler. Oh, and Kevin too. Is it Liz? I believe it's Liz. Kevin Schmidt with a break throw through threading the needle to, I believe it's Liz. Massive goes up 11-4. One tip that sometimes little tips just stick with you as a Frisbee player, and one tip that I was told a long time ago was, if your team gets scored on, run to the line. It sends several messages. It sends you're not giving up, you're ready to go, you're not intimidated, and so I've always tried to do that.
That's something that kills a lot of birds with one stone, because it sends those messages not to the other team, but to your own team that you're still playing.
Yeah, absolutely. I try to tell my teammates to do it too. Obviously, can't always do it, sometimes we're in some pretty difficult conditions with heat or
Savagery.
Exactly.
Savagery is difficult condition.
Savagery.
In fact, rad today, my team was savage every game.
Oh, really?
Boys savage,
Guys
girls
were savage.
not,
So you
yeah.
had 4 men total?
Yeah, except one was injured, so we went 3 men, and then we had to run 1 girls and a
3
boy.
men, 4 women. Okay.
And then one team was playing 5-2, so we ran 3 men, 4 women against 5 men. It was a tough day, gender-wise.
It's tricky in this league because every city is different. Every team has different numbers, so it's hard to really agree, or it's hard to have the whole league be a certain ratio. Ideally, you want 4-3 or more, just to encourage
Both genders.
equal. Yeah.
As Pat drops the easy disc, Ulsan goes in for another score. This game is all but wrapped up, folks. The score is 12-4. And historically, who has taken, after you're on the mic, of course, who has won past championships?
The last few years, it's been different. It's been different teams every year. I don't think any team has repeated since maybe the era of Daejeon Pandemic, winning several in a row. Well, let me think. I could probably tell you off the top of my head. So, my Busan Heat team won it fall 2011. Pandemic went back to win it spring 2012. Gwangju Uprising had quite a dynasty going for a while. They won it in fall 2012 and spring 2013. My Heat team lost to Homie Goats in fall 2013. Spring 2014 was Ulsan Narwhals. Fall was Busan Evolution. And we're here.
And we're here.
So, yes, my point being, a different team has won.
And
I think a different
cities.
city has won every time. And it's often the southern cities. I don't know what that...
Well, Seoul, of course, has its own Frisbee league.
Sure.
That can change.
Yeah.
But the skill
absolutely.
across ROK-U, I think that speaks to the skill being disparate throughout the country. And of course, new players come, old players leave, but the skill is just increasing constantly.
Yeah, definitely. 5-6 years ago, all the good Frisbee was in Seoul. And it's been really great to see the growth of ROK-U and the growth of, not just ROK-U, but just the growth of Frisbee in other cities.
ROK-U, of course, started in Daegu, was the original city, and during those days, Greg Smith, otherwise known as Guapo, was the true superstar of the league. He has more than half of the MVPs for men given out for the league. He still plays, but...
Legend. Total legend.
Absolute legend. Already in the Hall of Fame because he pretended to leave Korea for good, came back a couple times. But now it really speaks to the talent being spread out that he's no longer head and shoulders above every other player. In fact, there's other players that can rival him or even are better than him in ROK-U.
Yeah, Guapo's a legend. Guapo's always going to have that knowledge. He's played for over 20 years.
As Bro Malley.
I always love talking to him. As Bro Malley hucks it to Ollie. Oh, and it's just barely D'd out of Ollie's hands. That was a great read by Ollie and a great D, making no contact.
Nice clean play.
Very clean, yes. And Frisbee, we say it's a non-contact sport, but there really is a lot of contact.
Or at least a lot of injuries.
That's true, yeah. You see a lot less of that in the higher levels. The elite club.
They know how to bid
in the
without
US,
body contact. And that's something you need to work on.
And people just know where they're supposed to be. There's not a lot of collisions.
A big dive from Patrick O'Malley there as Massive works it up the field. And those bids laying out without risk of injury, without diving into other people's knees, it's a really important skill in Frisbee at all levels. Something that not all ROK-U players, but certainly most, have mastered.
One example would be Will France from Mafia. He has incredible amounts of control when he lays out, and he does do a lot of laying out. Oh! And Romali played.
Like it wasn't even like they won. Like they were in the lead.
Ollie's looking to the end zone, looking to the red zone, but swings to O'Malley. Good choice by Ollie. Swing back to Ollie. Ollie's got his hands on this disc for a lot of this point, and it's just barely D'd by Julia. Julia is quite an athlete. When I first played with Julia here, Julia Thomas, I said, you grew up playing sports, didn't you? And she was like, yeah. Can I talk?
That was excellent, D. Both
Great
these
D.
teams really hang their hats on defense.
Yeah. It's really a testament to keys of the game just being playing good defense, forcing turnovers. That's how you're going to win a game.
That's how you're going to win. A lot of points, especially in ROK-U, are scored from great D near the other team's end zone and picking it up for a quick
Looks like
score.
our friend Ron is going deep. Ron likes to have his little bursts of greatness. Hilarious halftime interview that I'll never forget.
That's probably the best interview I've ever given.
Fantastic. And Ollie's looking deep. Ollie gone. He gone.
Pat
is
hucks
what
it,
I like to say.
and he is wide
and if
open.
that curves in,
The greatest?
Just barely did not curve in.
Ron
It was a
actually
nice
went for the
look by
greatest.
Pat. Yeah, Ron went for the greatest. Ron is all about big plays. Just gonna keep this in the rest of the time.
That's cool. I've never seen the greatest or Callahan in a live game.
Oh, really? I don't know if you knew this, but Ollie had at least 2 Callahans this season.
As Pat gets a great tip, but still caught by Massive.
Yeah. Great hands by Massive.
With the Callahan, it really has to be a mistake from the offense. Really,
Yeah, sure.
it can't be your own greatness, can it?
Oh,
A
and
blade
O'Malley
hammer?
with a very bold blade here, and it's D'd.
That's about the highest hammer we've seen all game.
Very high. I think that might have been higher than the lights. I lost track of it for a sec.
Massive.
Working it up the field.
Massive ahead of the zone, but lets them recover. A lot of patience with the disc. That's led them to this big lead. Drop, though.
Ollie's commanding his troops to relax.
Colin Chili on this play.
Good call. Oh, the give and go with Pat. Oh yeah, I like it.
What's not
Every
to
other
like
this
about
shit,
Pat?
I just love seeing handlers do the give and go.
You gotta get open for that dump.
Pat's doing what I like to call the every other. Kind of when a handler gets the disc back, almost every other throw on a point, they're just really feeling it.
Every play for you. You throw, you catch, you throw, you catch, you throw, you catch.
Exactly.
Tough
Means
to
you're
defend
really in
against
charge.
a quick guy like Patrick O'Malley.
Yep.
Ollie throws to the end zone.
Oh, and a nice throw by Ollie.
Caught by Ron.
Ollie to Ron. I like that. I like that connection. It's very nice. Let's go, purple jerseys.
The score is 12.
Maddie, you're killing it.
Score is 12-5 now.
12-5. 12-5. You might say that's a dangerous score. It is game to 13, indeed. Game to 13. Captain's had a vote. Wait.
Maddie, can we comment together?
No.
Please?
Maddie, you're killing it.
Okay, say it.
So, Maddie,
One thing. Wait, why are the people yelling at these guys?
how are you enjoying the second half so far?
So the score is 12-5 now as the broadcaster's booth is swarmed by wannabe broadcasters.
I want to be a broadcaster.
We're being infiltrated here.
Because they're awesome.
Unfortunately,
I
it was
like
already
you. I
swarmed
wanna be
by
like
wannabe
Maddie.
broadcasters.
Our
be like you.
bouncer actually isn't really doing his
Yeah, our
job.
bouncer. Where is our bouncer?
I am your bouncer.
You're one of the swarmers. You're no bouncer.
Coming from the guy from the
O'Malley with a
wannabe
big
broadcaster.
pull here. And that is going to stay inbounds, just barely, yes. Wales back on the field. He actually, yes, there he is, okay.
That Pohang, Hangover zone.
Oh, and Aaron with a big D. That was nice. That's classic Aaron D right there.
For O'Malley to the end zone, tipped and
A little
deep.
hasty there, a little hasty. I think O'Malley got excited there. Easy to do. But I like to tell my teammates you can always, there's always a better look.
That Pohang zone is wide and slow right now. It's been over an hour in this game so far, and you can tell that the zone defenders are a little slow in their
They're
steps.
getting tired, but there's a hand block. Hand blocks are exciting.
Not as exciting as foot blocks, which are yet not as exciting as face blocks.
Face blocks. Because they hurt so good.
I had a pull last season. We were playing in the wind. I was playing with Nemo, and we were just trying to get it down to the end zone. I wasn't throwing anybody, and from 5 feet away, I hit Nemo squarely in the face as another hand block on Patrick O'Malley. And I think Nemo
Gotta get back on D.
yet
Gotta get back
recovered.
on D.
A deep throw from Whale. Overthrow.
Oh, a little overthrow. It's okay. I'm glad you overthrew that. It would have been a little boring. Let's make it more exciting here, Whale. Come on.
We haven't seen many sky discs yet this game. Nothing yet
Not too many,
for
yeah.
challenges
Yeah.
in the air.
Yeah.
Both teams definitely have their players that are strong in the air. On both genders, really.
Absolutely. I'd love to see an Aaron Whale match up for a sky. Let's see if that happens here. We've got O'Malley with the disc.
Aaron and Oliver are both excellent in the air.
Yeah, they
Not
really
so
are.
much display of that so far this game.
A great in cut there. Did you see how he really committed to that deep fake?
He had his
That was
defender's
really
hips
good.
turned.
Yeah, he really did. Great read.
Looks like a strip from Whale. Disc coming back in.
Probably no contest. Whale rarely contests the foul.
Pat Hurst, here's Tamu Yale, and to the end zone.
So exciting! That was great. Pat for the
Mike's off. Pat to Tamu.
Pat throws the slight outside in, straight into Tamu. Tamu got some nice hands there.
That was right in front of the
13. Game to 13. So we're on game point. Overs are going to need a break point here to stay alive.
A lot of break points.
They're going to need some energy, I think. Maybe the crowd could give them some energy. We all like an underdog, I think. Yeah?
That last point we knew was coming when in front of the broadcaster's booth, Tamu ran by Pat and yelled, "Pat, Pat, Pat!"
Yeah.
And you knew the disc was going right to him.
And, you know, that's a throw that's going to work in ROK-U. It's not a throw that's going to work at a higher level than ROK-U, but it works here, so why not? That's what I say, why not?
Hands are raised. Patrick O'Malley ready to pull. It's up.
Very nice pull. Very, very nice. All the way to that end zone. Kevin with a one-handed catch. High level of confidence there with the one-handed pull catch. I like it.
No risk, high reward.
Can I have some soda?
Why did you get
Again, overs with their signature zone. I would say signature for sure.
Absolutely. I believe they call it an assassin zone or a shark zone, something like that. Just a cool name, that's all they want. But it's countered by the patience you were talking about, but it's thrown away there. Pat with the deep shot, a blade.
Oh, a little too bladey there by Pat O'Malley. Come on, Pat O'Malley.
That outside in didn't come inside far enough.
Come inside far enough.
As Whale walks it slowly to the line.
If he had sent that a little bit flatter,
Yeah.
it would have been a score.
Come on, K-Fed! Come on, K-Fed! Oh, K-Fed.
K-Fed.
Kevin with the disc. He had an open deep throw earlier, didn't see it. With the disc now surveying the field.
Kevin's got great field vision as well.
He's one of the calmest players I've seen in ROK-U, although he drops it there.
A little bit of a crazy dump throw. Very nice in cut by Siobhan. She's super patient with the disc.
She is.
Just make sure her handler is open on that dump throw.
A lot of drops from Ulsan since they've reached the match point.
I think they're probably relaxing a bit. They're up 6-12. I wouldn't be surprised if Overs get a couple break points here.
You saw Nick Whale sit after they went to 12 after not sitting all day.
Rare sit.
He's back in now, though. A throw for the score.
Oh, Whale to Katie. Whale to Katie for the win. Congratulations, Ulsan Massive.
Congratulations, Ulsan Massive!
Ulsan Massive!
That was the final score. The final score is 13-6. Ulsan over the Pohang Hangovers. Excellent game on all accounts. Pohang stayed close in the beginning of the game. They really lost energy after half.
They really did. And I think it's just a depth thing. Look at Massive and look at Overs. Massive have many more players than Overs. All those players were involved. Overs had to rely on just a fewer number of total players, and maybe person to person they were pretty evenly matched, but having a deeper team in a game like this will really help.
Emotionally also, as an underdog, when you make it to the finals, sometimes you can be complacent, you can be content with just being there. Do you think that may have affected them this evening?
It could have, yeah. They were I'm not sure what seed they were going in, but they were definitely not expecting. Yeah, they were maybe 9th or 8th, 9th, 10th, something around there. So they weren't expected. It wasn't expected. So just being in the final is just a really awesome thing.
Massive, on the other hand,
I wouldn't hang my head at all in fact.
Absolutely not. They played excellently, showing off for Pohang. Of course, this is in Pohang, and they only have things to be proud of.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, so this has been the 2015 Spring ROK-U Championship in Korea. Ulsan Massive defeats the Pohang Overs. I'm Louis Apple.
I'm Madeline Stevenson. And we'll see you at the party.
Got color in your cheeks. Do you ever get that feel that you can't shift, the tide that sticks around like summits in your teeth? Are there some aces up your sleeve? Have you no idea that you're in deep? I dreamt about you nearly every night this week. How many secrets can you keep? 'Cause there's this tune I found that makes me think of you somehow, and I play it on repeat until I fall asleep, spilling drinks on my settee. Do I wanna know if this feeling flows both ways? Sad to see you go. Sorta hoping that you'd stay. We both know that the nights were mainly made for saying things that you can't say tomorrow day. Crawling back to you, never thought I'd call and run. You're out of you, 'cause I always do. Maybe I'm too busy being lost to fall for somebody new. Now I thought it through, crawling back to you. So have you got the goods? Been wondering if your heart's still open, and if so, I wanna know what time it should. Simmer down and poker up. I'm sorry to interrupt, it's just I'm constantly on the cusp. I've tried and to kiss you. I don't know if you feel the same as I do, but we could be together if you wanted to. I wanna know if this feeling flows both ways. Sad to see you go. We're sorta hoping